Today's High Performance Podcast is brought to you by Phegan Digital. It's where you'll find our incredible short courses. In under 60 minutes, you'll grow all the key skills, covering specific areas like how to hire an assistant, grow a team, to list better properties, to grow better fees, and to master your pipeline. Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Phegan and Alexander Phillips. Alexander, one of the big things that we're seeing a lot of agents wake up to is the whole notion about fast and slow markets. And they've just got this whole idea that they're going to put a property out onto the market. They're just going to see what actually happens. They do a couple of Saturdays. It may or may not sell on auction day. And before you know it, you're out there and you're doing the same open house on a property for 8 weeks in a row. Alex, you have a view about a sales process to make sure that you can sell properties in under 4 weeks. Now, I guess that the benefit of doing that in under 4 weeks is that you can do double the amount of transactions. If you're going to stand there and you're going to do 5 open for inspections on a Saturday, if it takes 8 weeks versus taking 4 weeks, you can actually really significantly increase your throughput on the number of transactions that you do. So Alex, as an agent, how important is it to actually get the sales process right, to be able to get your market to move quickly, even if the rest of the market, in inverted commas, is not moving as fast, to make sure that you can sell properties in that shorter period of time?
I think, Josh, you've got to understand how the buyer behaviours work and how important that is to work that into the process, which comes into the listing appointment, actually speaking to the vendor about when you're going to meet the best buyers and how you progress those buyers. And if you're not priced right from day one, you're going to overshoot the mark and then you end up selling it for less later, and actually having real case studies around that. I think in any marketplace, your best buyers are urgent buyers, which means they need to buy. They have a real reason to buy. Either their wife's pregnant, they've sold, they need to buy, they've been kicked out of their current house, and they need to buy and settle quite quickly. And those buyers generally will look at a property in the first 10 days, and it's actually explaining that to the vendors and saying that those buyers in 3 or 4 weeks' time don't have that, and they're probably just more looking to get a deal on the property. So that comes down to the first conversation before you actually go on the market, and then pre-framing that in 10 days you don't have an offer, that this is what you need to look at. This is these you need to have a price reduction. Actually having that conversation early on, so you're not, because the problem is as well, you don't the vendor is looking for some leadership from you and advice to ensure that they're getting the best result, and not just sort of giving in to them and saying, let's just see how we go and let's just hope for the best. Like those agents aren't really giving the vendors any clear direction, and therefore aren't going to sell properties when they should be sold, and also lose listings to the next agent.
And I think that the big conversation here is about learning how to move quickly. Alex, you recently had a property that you listed in Bondi. I thought, that looks good. I think you launched it on the Tuesday. Maybe there was an open on the Wednesday. I happened to be away on that Saturday, and I thought I'll probably just go next Saturday to go and have a look at that. And then literally on the following Tuesday, that property was sold. So, you now have this notion that if Alexander Phillips has got the property, you're going to need to move really quickly if you actually want to be the buyer to go and buy that. Alex, how important is it that an agent actually establishes that in a marketplace, that you've developed a brand or a reputation, that if you're a buyer, you've got to act with urgency around someone like you, as opposed to other agents that might just let things linger for a longer period of time on market?
Yeah, and I think that is a perception in the marketplace, but that also creates urgency in itself. But what we're actually doing in the background is making sure that buyer is ready. So mentally ready, financially ready, contractually ready, explaining it, progressing them, making sure that you do, get them into that position. It's super important when you do, a transaction at any point, if it's in day 1 or day 28, that you've had every buyer have an opportunity and not go, I would have paid more, I need more time. And, that means you haven't actually done the justice to the vendor or the property. So really what we're doing to speed up the transactions is speeding up the buyers and actually getting them ready.
One of the big things that I like about it is that in New South Wales, we have a thing called the Section 66W, which allows a solicitor to be able to sign off and to be able to make a transaction unconditional. Alex, you don't take offers forward without it being with a 66W. Is that correct? To just remove any friction in the deal?
Correct. And that in itself, flushes out the standout buyers. Like we've sold this month alone on Sundays 3 properties, one for 13 and 2 last weekend. One was for 9 million, another one for 2.5. But all the transactions were able to be done because we prepared the buyers. All the buyers had 66Ws before close of business on the Friday. We had the Saturday open, got the vendors prepared, and we sold them Sunday. So therefore, we by doing that, you haven't missed anyone, but also you've got them fully prepared.
I think this is the big conversation, though. You're teaching people how to do business because you've got to do it as though you're ready, not be in a position that's subject to this and subject to that. And maybe my great aunt from Darwin might come and have a look at the property, as opposed to like, you know what, you want to do a transaction, you've got to do it in the next 7 or 8 days. So smooth out your sales process, reduce the friction, and actually make it so that when you're presenting offers in front of your sellers, as much as possible, that thing is as unconditional, so they can actually say yes to that offer, rather than literally something that might be subject to, that benchmarks them at a higher number. When the buyer falls over, then you're just in a nightmare situation trying to find another buyer who can actually catch up to where that first buyer really was.